In this video we're going to look at number 1, which is determining which of these equations could correspond to this graph. So I'm going to start by going over what the graph of y equals sine x would look like, as well as the graph of y equals cosine of x. So y equals sine x. We know sine of 0 is 0. Sine of pi over 2 is 1. Sine of pi is 0. Sine of 3 pi over 2 is negative 1. Sine of 2 pi is 0. So sine x looks like this. Cosine of x, if you have cosine of 0, you're at 1. Cosine of pi over 2, you're at 0. Cosine of pi, you're at negative 1. Cosine of 3 pi over 2, you're at 0. And back at 2 pi, you're at cosine of 1. Cosine equals 1. So the cosine curve is going to look like this. And based on those, let's look at whether these transformed graphs would produce this curve that's given here. The midline of this curve is here, which shows us that this has an amplitude of 1. Amplitude is the distance from the midline to the top or the midline to the bottom of the graph. So all of these equations have an amplitude of 1. Sine x minus pi over 2 plus 1 has been shifted right by pi over 2. So from the original sine graph, we're going right by pi over 2 and up by 1 with an amplitude of 1. So that is the correct match. In equation B, we're going from the cosine graph here. We're flipping it upside down, so this is reflected over the x-axis, which would bring the graph to have a low here at negative 1. And then this graph is getting shifted up by 1 unit, which would match this graph as well. So in this case, B is also an answer. In part C, we're starting with the sine graph. Again, we're shifting the graph left by pi over 2. The graph is going to get flipped upside down. So instead of this being going up, it's going to get flipped upside down, so it'll go down like this. And then the graph's going to get shifted up by 1 unit, which would match this graph as well. Alright, let's look at the last one. Y equals cosine x plus pi plus 2. So this means the cosine graph is going to get shifted left by pi over 2. So the top of the graph here is getting shifted left by pi over 2. Or no, just by pi. So left by pi and up by 2 units, which would mean the top of the graph should be here, but the top of the graph is actually only here. So this would not be a match.